I thought it was a prank at first, just a belated April Fool's joke from one of my buddies. I never thought for a second that it could have spiraled into the horrifying mess I found myself in. The thick stone ceiling above me has made calling the cops impossible, but I think I have just enough of a signal to get this out to the internet. My note in a bottle, if you will. There are no clocks here, but as far as I can tell, this all started a few hours ago. I sat hunched over my computer desk, squinting at the harsh blue light of my monitor. I was going through my nightly ritual of scanning through Craigslist for good deals. I was moments away from powering the computer down and giving my tired brain a break when I saw it. The image was so surreal. It took me a moment to figure out what I was looking at. There, nestled between my vintage typewriter and a dusty old sofa, was a picture of me. The title was my full name, and the price was listed at $1,500. I mentally went through all of my friends and family, trying to figure out who would do something like this, but came up empty-handed. I saw there were more pictures and went to scroll through them, but hesitated. I was afraid that I'd be met with fuzzy Polaroids of me taken from behind bushes and through windows. However, as I scrolled through the images, I realized I recognized each one. I'd taken them. They were all from my Facebook feed. A selfie I'd taken with some friends at a bar, a picture of me at the beach with my girlfriend. I felt my heart rate begin to quicken. My Facebook was set to private, and I never friended anyone I didn't know. How did these pictures get onto the internet? I clicked the listing and began anxiously reading the description. Product is a 26-year-old Caucasian male. It is 237 pounds and 5'8". It consumes approximately 2,200 calories per day. I raised an eyebrow at the last line. What would anyone want with this information? It went on to describe everything I'd eaten in the past 2 weeks in meticulous detail. Everything from the McGriddle I'd had on my way to work to the Snickers I'd munched on today after dinner. They even knew about my ADD medication. I nervously glanced around my house, suddenly feeling naked and vulnerable. Where were they getting this information? How long had they been keeping tabs on me? Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, I saw a short message at the end of the post that made my skin crawl. Product is unathletic and should be easily collected by 2 to 3 people. Bringing weapons are suggested but not needed. Collected? Any hope of this being a joke was beginning to evaporate. How many people had seen this listing by now? What kind of people go searching for a listing like this at all? Then I had a thought that made me bring a hand to my mouth. Did this page have my address listed? It seemed terrifyingly possible. The listing had seemingly every other detail about me. Why not that? My eyes scanned the webpage until I found a message that explained everything. Address for $1,500. Email if interested. It made a sick sort of sense. They'd found a way to monetize their stalking. Why let such a great talent go to waste, right? I wondered how many other people he'd done this to. How many home invasions and robberies and abductions he'd helped facilitate just for a few $1,000. I immediately flagged the post, hoping to have it taken down. However, I quickly realized it would take hours, maybe even days for the moderators at Craigslist to get to it. I didn't have that time to spare. My fingers flew across the keyboard, searching Google for some way to get a hold of the people at Craigslist, but in the end, all I could find was a generic contact form. Getting desperate, I opened my email to try one last gambit. I plugged in the seller's address, a random string of numbers and letters, and typed out a desperate plea to take down the listing, offering 5 times the original price. Waiting for a response was torture. I passed the time by running around my house, locking all the doors and windows. I also turned off all the lights to make it look like there was no one home. I knew realistically the odds of some psycho seeing that post was slim. But the internet was a big place, and I didn't want to take any chances. I was so on edge that by the time I heard the ding of the email notification, my heart practically jumped out of my chest. I regret to inform you that the information has already been purchased. I buried my head in my hands. I had been too late. How long ago it had been bought? 10 minutes ago? An hour? A day? My line of thought was broken when the crackling of wheels on gravel brought my attention to the window. I pulled the curtains aside and peered out into the night, careful to reveal as little of myself as possible. A black SUV was pulling into my driveway, its occupants hidden behind a dark window. I told myself everything was fine, that they were just doing a 3-point turn and would be gone in a minute. However, instead of driving away, the doors popped open in unison. 2 figures emerged from the car, dressed head to toe in black. I wanted to turn and run, but fear had paralyzed me. I watched helplessly as the men marched up to my front door and knocked loudly. I realized then that their plan must have been to wait for me to answer the door and drag me into their car, but I knew better. I began calling 911, cursing myself for not doing it sooner. The door was heavy oak and would take them at least a minute or 2 to kick down. That's when I heard it. There was a strange beeping sound coming from the other side of the door. After racking my brain for a few moments, I figured out what it was. It was the beeping of my door's keypad. They couldn't possibly know the code, could they? And then it dawned on me. The creep who posted the listing knew everything about me. Of course they knew the passcode. My blood ran cold, and I dashed away from the door, looking for a place to hide. Click. The door unlocked. I ducked behind a corner into the kitchen just as it began to slowly creak open. The back door was at the other side of the kitchen, and I began creeping toward it, grateful I'd turned the lights out earlier. The 2 men cautiously stepped into the living room, talking in hushed voices about where I might be. I had almost made it to the back door when I bumped into the kitchen table. I cursed myself for not seeing it. Their whispers immediately stopped, and they began marching toward me, forcing me to improvise a hiding place. I slipped into my kitchen's pantry and shut the door just as the light clicked on. The men, apparently no longer concerned with stealth, began stomping around the kitchen, looking for me. I squeezed my eyes shut and prayed they didn't look inside, knowing I'd be completely helpless if they did. I bit down on my knuckles and time seemed to stretch out forever. But they eventually left, going deeper into the house to search for me. I let out a sigh of relief. Buzz. My phone was ringing in my pocket. I took it out and it was my girlfriend, Lexi. My eyes widened. Lexi, she'd be home any minute. What if the men decide to take her instead? I answered the call. Hey you, she said. Lexi, don't come to the house. It's not safe. Oh my God, where are you? She said, fear creeping into her voice. I'm hiding in the pantry. I think I'm safe for now, but... The line went dead. I felt my heart sink. Had they gotten to her already? Had I not warned her in time? Then I heard something strange, a vibrating noise in the room over. One of the men's phone was ringing. He answered it and listened a moment. His voice was raspy and muffled. He's where? Another pause, then footsteps, thundering straight toward me. My mind raced momentarily, and then it hit me. The one who had posted the listing hadn't been stalking me. They had been living with me. Lexi was the one who'd posted it. And she just told them exactly where I was. I burst out of the pantry and made a break for the door, just as the two men rounded the corner behind me. I wanted to look back, but fought the urge. If I looked back, I'd get nervous, and if I got nervous, I'd stumble, and if I stumbled, they'd drag me into their car and do God knows what. I flung open the back door and ran into the cool, damp air. However, before I could make a break for it, one of them caught me by the hood, snapping my neck back. The fabric tightened around my throat like a snake, making it hard to breathe. I blindly threw an elbow behind and connected with his ribs. The man cried out in pain, and I felt his grip loosen by just a fraction. A fraction was all I needed. I tucked in my chin, drew in my arms, and wriggled out of the hoodie, falling to the wet earth on my hands and knees. I made a mad dash for the tree line, and I ran. As I ran, I heard angry shouts from behind. "Just shoot! The damn thing is jammed! Oh, give me that!" A loud pop rang out into the night, and something whizzed past my ear. I wondered what they had shot at me. The sound was too quiet to be a gun. A quick glance behind me revealed that one of the men was holding what looked like a small, lightweight sniper rifle. It was green, with a strange white chamber at the bottom. "What the hell is that thing?" The man shoved something inside, clicked it back, and took aim. Pop! Fear shot through me like a bolt of electricity. I jerked my body out of the way just in time for something to fly past me and bury itself in a nearby tree. It was a dart. They were shooting at me with a tranquilizer gun, like I was a wild animal. The tree line was about 40 feet away now. My lungs felt like they were full of bees, but I kept running anyway, knowing if I slowed even a fraction, they'd catch me. I did my best to avoid the darts, diving out of the way whenever I heard one of those sickening pops, but eventually, my luck ran out. Just as I had reached the tree line, ready to disappear behind the dense foliage, I felt a red-hot sting in my back. Exhaustion began flooding my body, making my movements slow and sluggish. The world spun around me, and soon I found myself on the forest floor. My memories of what happened next are jagged and frayed. The click of a trunk, the jangle of keys. When I finally came to my senses, I found myself on a damp concrete floor, bathed in darkness, shivering from the biting cold. The only noise breaking the eerie silence were the heavy thuds of footsteps over my head. They left me my phone, maybe to keep me from going crazy, maybe to taunt me. To ensure I can't ask for help, they've somehow blocked all posting or messaging features. At least, almost all of them. No Sleep is the only place that I can post. At first, I thought they'd made a mistake. I thought maybe this subreddit had just slipped past them. But now I'm starting to realize it's because they think no one will believe me. But that can't be true. At least one of you has to believe me. Right?